murder, deception, and a confession that unraveled into a tangled web of lies. This is a story of an infamous case known as People v. Faulkner, a case that left more questions than answers. In June of 1984, a man named William Rose, aka the father of Guns N' Roses singer Axl Rose, disappeared without a trace. Nobody mentioned anything, no crime scene, just gone. For 3 years, the case remained a mystery until one family's dark secret came to light. But was the truth really uncovered? Or was it buried under coercion, fear, and manipulation? Today we dive into the case of James Faulkner, a man convicted of murder based largely on the words of his son, a son who later claimed it was all a lie. The story begins in the Faulkner home sometime in June of 1984. According to the prosecution, James Faulkner caught his wife Judith in a bed with another man. This man was Axel's dad, William Rose. But Faulkner did not just confront them, he made sure his own son, Jimmy, witnessed what happened next. Jimmy would later tell a jury that his father plunged a knife deep into William Rose's chest, watching as his heart pumped blood onto the sheets. They moved his body to the bathtub where Rose took his final breaths and his final bath. The Faulkner family, James, Judith, and their own children, Jimmy and Valerie, allegedly worked together to dispose of the body. This bath was not with water, it was with blood. Wrapped in a drop cloth, stuffed into a car trunk, and discarded in an abandoned strip mine, William Rose's remains were left to decay, lost to time. For years, the Faulkners kept their silence until Jimmy spoke. 3 years later, in 1987, Jimmy Faulkner told investigators what he had witnessed. His chilling testimony helped convict his father of murder, securing him for a good number of years behind four walls. The Williamson County Sheriff's Office interrogated the family, each member separately. They had tied four Faulkner family members as suspects. For the following reasons, loved ones of William Rose pointed them out as being associated with him and that this family was the last one he had been with. The sheriff's office raided the Faulkner family home and arrested the four members. James, his wife Judith, as well as his kids Jimmy and Valerie. Jimmy thought the whole family could be severely punished if one of them did not tell the truth. Therefore, he allegedly snitched on everybody involved. Authorities then believed that William Rose had been stabbed to death and that his remains had been buried in an abandoned coal mine. Therefore, he was presumed dead. The murder is believed to have taken place in 1984 on the 4th of July. All four were then arrested and taken to the headquarters of the sheriff's office, where the interrogation took place. They are believed to have done that interrogation to clear things up and possibly get away with the crimes. After processing, they were booked into the Van Buren Street Jail in the town of Marion, Illinois. Williamson County State Attorney Charles Garnati vowed to prosecute the case, taking up the probe. Charges were brought in the case without involving a grand jury, but only against James. The family of four appeared before Judge Brockton Lockwood. Judge Lockwood read the charges against James Faulkner: conspiracy, evidence tampering, accessory, weapons possession, aggravated assault, kidnapping, and false imprisonment, all felony crimes. James was denied bond and would remain in jail for the time being. The other three were also ordered to remain in jail without bond. Judge Lockwood read the charges against the rest of the family members. For the three of them, accessory and conspiracy, obstruction and endangerment, all felonies, 2 of them in the second degree, the conspiracy unclassified and accessory in the first degree. For James, the conspiracy was in the first degree and the rest unclassified. The prosecution painted a picture of cold-blooded revenge, a violent man who forced his son to bear witness a gruesome crime. And this might have been the end of the story, except for one thing. Jimmy Faulkner recanted. In a stunning twist, Jimmy signed an affidavit in 1991 declaring that his testimony was false. Not only did he claim his father was innocent, but he also revealed that authorities had allegedly coerced him into lying under oath. He said he was threatened, that he and his family would be jailed unless he stuck to the story he had given to police. He insisted that William Rose was never murdered and that the entire tale had been fabricated. But was it too late? The charges against the 3 other family members were ultimately dropped. For Jimmy, by Judge Lockwood due to malice treatment, for Valerie, by the prosecution due to her cooperation, and for Judith, also by Judge Lockwood, but for a lack of evidence to continue. James and Judith hired their own attorneys. For James, James Kelly, and for Judith, Ronald Osmond. On the other hand, Jimmy and Valerie got court-appointed attorneys. For Jimmy, Michael O'Rourke, and for Valerie, Robert Howerton. James maintained his innocence and went to trial. The trial started on June 8, 1987 at the Williamson County Circuit Court, with a jury consisting of 12 members and 2 alternates. Judge Lockwood rejected a motion of acquittal and ordered the jury to decide whether he was guilty or not. On July 14th, the following month, the jury found James guilty, but only on the murder charge. Judge Lockwood afterwards declared that James could spend the rest of his life in prison. The judge as well rejected a motion for mistrial. Due to this, James appealed to the higher courts. Therefore, after about 3 months from his conviction, he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. James was temporarily housed after sentencing at the Stateville Correctional Center in Crest Hill for evaluation. He was afterwards admitted into the Menard Correctional Center in Chester, Illinois, where he remains to this day. Armed with this new information, James Faulkner's defense team fought to overturn his conviction, arguing that his attorney failed to properly challenge Jimmy's credibility. There were 2 key pieces of evidence claiming that could have dismantled the prosecution's case. Jimmy's 1991 affidavit, in which he admitted to lying on the stand, as well as testimony from Helga Davis, a close family friend. Before the trial, Jimmy had already told Davis that his entire story about the murder was a fabrication. Despite this, the court refused to grant Faulkner a new trial. The ruling, the defense's legal strategy at trial, while perhaps imperfect, was not so deficient that it violated Faulkner's constitutional right. In 1990, the Illinois Appeals Court in Mount Vernon denied James a new trial. Later that year, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear the case. Now, the problem with recantations. This case highlights a common issue in criminal trials. When a witness comes forward after a conviction and claims they lied, how much weight should that hold? On the other hand, wrongful convictions are real, and coercion by law enforcement is not unheard of. Recantations can be motivated by pressure, regret, or manipulation from the convicted person. In Faulkner's case, the court was not convinced. Jimmy Faulkner's original testimony aligned with other evidence. The 1991 affidavit was not enough to overturn a life sentence. So where does this leave us at? The body of William Rose was never found. No forensic evidence ever confirmed the murder, and yet, James Faulkner remains in prison to this day, convicted largely on words of a son who later took it back. Did James Faulkner really kill William Rose, or was this a case of manufactured evidence built on a confession extracted under duress? Either way, the truth, whatever it is, was buried along with William Rose, and after all these years, it seems unlikely that it will ever resurface. I personally believe that this family is innocent, and if I am wrong, due to the coercion, James should at least get a chance for parole. Thank you for listening to Strawberry Ink. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to follow the show and leave a review. You can also follow me on socials for more updates on upcoming cases. Until next time, stay curious, stay questioning, and stay safe. Have a good rest of your day.